How did you get over suicidal thoughts? Serious? I didn't. But battling with those thoughts is an everyday affair for me. Doing the old, my parents didn't spend all this money and time on me for this, usually works. And when it doesn't, I just distract myself with whatever. Every time the thoughts have hit me, I keep in mind how much life can change out of nowhere for the better. It may not be that day, it may not even be that week, but something will inevitably happen that makes me feel better. Life isn't a guaranteed downward spiral, it's a roller coaster with highs and lows. At the very least, it's the most stabilizing thought I use to counteract suicidal thoughts. I'm only sporadically depressive and even rarer to be truly suicidal over my life, so I might not be that helpful, but I tend to take a catcher in the right outlook and really focus on a kid in my family. Either a cousin at times, or now my niece and nephew. I try not to make anyone else really matter to me as far as outside my family goes, because I know they would never try to hurt me. So I just spend some weeks or months in escapism with that. Take them to movies, reconnect with my sister or aunts and uncles, etc. Most of my issues was I was alone and afraid of being alone, so connecting with family in a trusting, loving environment really helps. Though yeah, it can suck when it gets really bad. Then I just make myself daydream about what I liked in life and just try to dream of doing it again. I'm trying to come out of super bad agoraphobia right now, and that's what I'm doing. It's complicated because I found out there was some issues with my stomach really, and it wasn't my imagination. Getting any underlying problem out can be really useful. I'm a planner and I always have to think a few steps ahead. Whenever I have suicidal thoughts, I plan on what I would do leading up to my last day. The list ends up doing my favorite things, or I guess essentially a bucket list. If I think about all the good things I want to accomplish before I inevitably leave this world, it gives me motivation to keep pressing forward. Having a good day makes me want to have more. On really rough days I physically remove myself from the environment and surrounding people. I'm really into cycling, so I usually go for a bike ride. I once ran out of my house barefoot and wearing jeans. I didn't stop for 3 or 4 miles. I also think about my elementary age nieces and little cousins. I think about how much they have to accomplish, and I realize that I do as well. So one of the cool things about thoughts is that they don't really make you do anything. For example, how many times have you made a plan to do something healthy and then you didn't? Thoughts can be scary, but they aren't really that powerful if you learn how to deal with them. So don't be so obsessed with stopping the thoughts. Learn to change your relationship with them, make your own choices, and don't be afraid to seek help. I don't have many resources for the learn to change your relationship with thoughts part at the moment, but if anybody actually noticed this post, I'll add some. Might be corny, but when the urge came up way back when, I replayed, in my mind, that scene from Gladiator where he remembers his dead wife and child and tells himself and his friend, "Not today." Worked. Also let me have an emotional outlet that so I could stand back from own pain in that critical moment. I didn't. I still call the suicide prevention hotline regularly. This is gonna sound stupid, but it's what happened. One day, for some reason, I realized I wanted to be happy, not dead. Surely I must have had the thought before, but that one time it just clicked. Haven't felt suicidal since. I waited, and life got better. I figured that life couldn't get worse, and if I died, that might be worse. So the only place to go was up, and it turns out up is a pretty good place. Don't imagine that answer works for everyone, but it worked for me. I've had suicidal thoughts countless times, and it sucks. How I think about it now is sort of like moving away from home. Like, sure, maybe I don't like the place I'm in right now, and maybe this seems like an exciting new opportunity, but there are things I'd miss. This is my home, after all. I kinda start with stuff that fits the metaphor and go from there, eventually thinking about how I'd miss warm blankets and the possibility of feeling someone else's heartbeat, and so on. Just thinking about the things I'd miss helps, and this exercise helps me do that. Mine never stop, honestly. I realize that I don't really want to die. I just want to not feel what I'm feeling. Death won't make me feel better. But if I hang on and wait it out, eventually that will make me feel better. Someday. I'll be honest, I'm surprised I'm still here. I told myself 7-8 years ago that if I wasn't happy when I turned 18 that I'd just kill myself. The only thing that kept me from following through was the thought of how it would hurt my sister and father. For a while I just tried to ignore it. I told myself I'd do it tomorrow, and by morning I felt empty enough to not think about it until that night. I went off to college a bit after I turned 18. I'd been in a very short, I have my best friend to thank for that, emotionally abusive relationship, my parents' divorce, money struggles, and the having to stop doing the extracurricular activity that I was in. First semester was okay. Second semester I spent most of my free time figuring out ways to off myself without anyone being able to intervene. Almost steered myself off the freeway doing 80+. Almost stopped at an empty bridge, wanting to jump off. Wanting to drive to the local canyon and drive off a cliff. Some point in there I realized I was transgender. Apparently flooding a brain with testosterone when it's supposed to have estrogen is a bad thing. I had nothing to lose by doing something about it, so I finished the semester and went home. Told my mom. Told my dad everything I've been going through. I don't think I've ever seen him cry until he realized how close he was to losing one of his kids. That really hit home how devastated he would have been, to see him shaking and sobbing like that. Started seeing a therapist. I had always convinced myself that I wasn't that bad, that I didn't need one. Oh boy, how wrong I was. I started getting treatment, the correct hormones for my body. I've started getting better. The thoughts don't really go away. I still deal with anxiety and depression. But now I can think clearly enough to recognize how I'd been lying to myself for so long, and recognize that it's okay to not be okay. Like others have said, I didn't. I just learned to live with them and I became better equipped for dealing with them when they happen. Now when they happen, instead of basically thinking this is a good idea, I realize no matter how much I hate myself or my life sometimes, there's still so much good in my life I'm not willing to give up on yet. There's still so much left for me to do and experience, and I don't want to miss out on any of that, the good or the bad. For me it's just doing things. I need to force myself to do or not do things. It's hard, but once I start getting things done I have less to worry about and things start to get better. It never stays that way forever, and then I might start to fall back into bad habits, and then I need to start forcing myself to act rather than just laying in bed all day like I feel like. It's the hardest thing I have ever done, but it works for me. Also just at the bottom right now, trying to change again. Started to make some progress, but I have a long way to go before I consider myself out of this hole. I just kind of repressed them through existentialism. We're all going to die anyway, so you might as well just go with the flow. Suicide also seems kinda boring. You got this big world out there that you could do almost anything in. You could hike across the country, write a novel, learn to play piano, invent a new word, become president. The possibilities are endless. You can only kill yourself one way and one time. Failed my attempt, decided to try LSD for a radical shift in my cognitive thinking habits. The experience helped me to step outside of myself and embrace a new understanding of myself and my relations with others. Started exercising, eating healthy, and trying really hard in school with the motivation I got from tripping. Every area of my life where I have improved is one more barrier to falling back in the dark. I decided if I am going to give up my life, why not instead repurpose myself for serving others? Every now and then they still crop up. I accepted that a small part of me is and probably always will be self-destructive. That being said, it's not the huge battle of wills it was even a year or so before to dispel the stupid thoughts. That's all they are. A stupid thought. I focus on things that make me feel happy. If I'm home alone and it becomes a bit much, I'll have a little cry just to let it out. But I've not needed to do that in a long time. My solution was a friend I made this year. She's really shown me that there's a while other me. She says that she never saw me on any of the awful ways I thought people did. I also cut contact with some toxic friends who would always make hurtful comments every single conversation and got a new job with no customer interaction. So it's a mixture of surrounding yourself with the right people who support your, knowing that the world would be worse off without you as they'd be devastated, and a bit of stubbornness, I guess.